Oh, test. Got it? Yeah? All right, it is my great pleasure to introduce somebody who, when I was a young man, and I wanted to grow up and be an artist, I was fortunate to meet this guy first. And not only did he inspire me with his passion towards art and his passion towards teaching, he really taught me to believe in myself and set me down a course that eventually led to me becoming a very successful artist here in San Diego. So it's my great pleasure to introduce one of my favorite mentors, one of my favorite people in the whole world, Mr. Jerry Brice.
Thank you, Brad. Brad has been a blessing in my life. I met him when he was as big as his son here. When he was a wee pup, and you know, for real, he was one of my first animation students when I was working at a film, in between Filmation and Disney. I would drive down to San Diego on the weekends, and I had 8 students. I had 8 students. Brad was one of them, and you know, it was really wasn't any money in it. I was doing it for my friend Mike Palcino. I just really loved teaching. It was helping me at the time, but I'm proud to say that everybody that was in that class has had a wonderful career. They didn't go to Cal Arts like me. They didn't go through that expense. But you know, Brad's been working at Sony On-Line as their lead animator now on all their games for the past 12 years. Michael Palcino has been working on The Simpsons for 20 years as a director. He's made a lot of money. As my brother. And then, you know, and a couple of the guys are storyboard artists, and you know, we, you know, kind of like, you know, by Countertime here, we did it with little support, but I had a love for the artist, and I had a love for the craft, and I just wanted to promote it like I'm promoting it here to you. Now, everybody hear me? Fine. Hello. All right. Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for coming out here to the Tubman Chavez Center for the first annual 2012 CounterCon, Inner City Kids Comic Book Business Conference. As he misses my sound. Now, the goal of this conference, and this is our initial conference, so we envision this as a pioneering event. But the initial conference was predicated on a conversation I was having with several of my colleagues on Facebook about, you know, the 40 years of the Comic-Con that's happening downtown right now. You guys familiar with the Comic-Con? Anybody in here attending the Comic-Con this year? A few people. Any children? Okay. Well, growing up here, I grew up in Emerald Hills on Bolenbacker Street, not too far from here, in this very community in the 70s. And in the 70s, I had a friend named Dwayne Moring. Judge Dwayne Moring, he was supposed to, you know, he may join us here today, but he was a comic book collector, comic book enthusiast. He, you know, behind his dad's house, he had thousands and thousands of comics from the 60s and 70s that he doesn't have anymore, but they all probably worth thousands and thousands of dollars. Had he kept them, his daddy threw them out. You know what I mean? You know, they went to college. But if Dwayne was here, you know, Dwayne had a love and lust for collecting comic books and preserving them, that he just invigorated or inspired myself and my cousin, Wilmer Green, to pursue the similar lust and passion for comic book arts. That led me to go to the San Diego Comic-Con in the early 70s at the El Cortez Hotel, when it was about as big as this room. You know, that's how the Comic-Con started. You could get in for $5 or $10. You know, I think I started going, my daddy let me go in '76, you know, at that time. And I've been going basically every year since. I'm about 47 years old now, you know, and this wow. That all depends. Okay, there's out. But that Comic-Con. That's all good. The Dennis Cowan from BBT. Static Shop, all that. Friend of mine. Anyway, you know, long story short, that started out small, and it turned in over the years. It turned into the mega exclusive event that it is. I remember when I was working at Disney, I used to come down and meet my cousin Little Will at the train station because he was still living here with my buddies from Disney Features, and we used to walk to Golden Hall to the Comic-Con, and at the Comic-Con is where, you know, I was an enthusiast of artists, so I would see people like Dennis, you know, Cowan's name is Penciler, or, you know, or my favorite inkers and letterers in DC Comics or Marvel Comics. I was like a DC guy, and all my friends were Marvel guys. But I loved all the comics, and I would go there and I would meet people, and they would be able to spend quality time with me and encourage me and mentor me into how to pursue or direct myself to a professional career in the animation or comics industry. And that happened here in San Diego. And I know Brad will attest to this fact that a lot of kids of our generation have that same story. So it's not an accident that that I'm a professional animator, he's a professional animator, and a lot of my friends are professional animators and illustrators from this very neighborhood. Judge Dwayne Moring, y'all, I was just talking about. So this man right here is the reason that I'm, you know, he's a year younger than me. But these are my role models, these are our friends, you know, childhood friends, and his love for comic books and collecting, and he's one of the most, what do you call it, persons of integrity, you know, because he would preserve the comics and keep the staples and put them in plastics. You know? But, you know, but we got to look at what the comics did. It led me to have a career. You know, I got to go to Cal Arts, and I got to work with some of my favorite, you know, animators that I knew, and I really didn't know I was working and going to school next to some of my favorite animators because they're my friends, and they've done a lot of profound things in this industry. But it all started from San Diego. A friend, Judge Dwayne, and you know, he went on to a great career as a judge. And I just really wanted to have the kids in my neighborhood, where I'm from, meet people like, you know, Dennis and Roland, Poindexter, and everybody on this panel, and to get encouragement to pursue a career in the animation, game art, comic book, or the business of entertainment, which is what Roland and eventually my cousin Matthew will be here to talk to. So anyway, what I have here, I've invited some of my best friends here. David Brown, who's an award-winning political comic strip artist. Dennis Cowan. I'm just telling you about Dennis Cowan, the preeminent, you know, legendary DC, Batman, comic book artist. He's done some Static Shock creator, producer, senior executive of BET Animation. You know, put his name in a search engine, you'll see some stuff. But you know, on a collegial level, you know, I'm an artist, I draw. He's an artist and he draws it at a basic level. That's what I love. You know, that's why I like this man to draw. I mean, he's a powerful executive, probably right whole nine, but I like the drawing. I like the drawing. So Dennis is a great guy. Roland Poindexter. Roland, me and Roland go way back. You know, I did a comic strip in Herb magazine. You know, remember Herb magazine? You know, Herb magazine. He was a.
It's called Herb magazine.
The Urban. Urban. URB.
URB.
See, he always goes there.
Urban magazine. The urban people. Urban things. We reported about people, places, and things. But Roland was probably a student at USC at the time. Definitely. And he was our movie critic, I believe. And I'll be straight honest with you, I used to do graffiti art sometimes. So a tagger friend of mine, you know, by the name of Tech One, goes by the alias now of Raymond Roker, who went on to a fabulous career with Red Bull. He publishes Red Bulletin, and the man he's just created an industry and a career for himself. I look up to this brother. But anyway, yeah, Roland, and I'll say, man, who's Roland Poindexter? It sounds like a fake name. Right? There's nobody named Roland. And then I meet him. And he's a great guy. I mean, this guy came to the only guy that came to my club, and and everything. And we've just been friends ever since. But he's a network executive. You know, he was a top network executive at Nickelodeon for the past 8 years. But I met him when he was working with Margaret Lesh at Fox, and actually made a friend of mine real famous. If you ever watch Bill Cobb. I'm trying to think, what's Bill's show? Eat the Cat. Right, Eat the Cat. But he was a classmate. I love this guy. We're still friends, and he went on to a fabulous career. And thanks to Margaret, Roland, and the team at Fox for making his shows #1. So we have Brad Constantine, obviously lead animator at Sony On-Line Entertainment. And Brad will tell you proudly, student of mine, but also proudly, we feel like we're the last generation. He, maybe more last than myself. But we're the last generation of artists that entered the animation industry that still have drawing chops, as well as technical chops. My technical chops are, developing. But it's the dying art. Dennis came out with a comic book recently, and I was telling everybody wanted to download it rather than, But yeah, it was definitely some brilliant artwork. First thing I want to do is I want my good friend Judge Dwayne, Superior Court, San Diego, Judge Dwayne, to go into that story. And he has I love telling people about Dwayne because, comic books turned him into a real life superhero, and I'll let him take it from there.
Well, Jerry grew up next door to me. His grandparents were my neighbors. And how many kids did your grandparents have?
Six.
I'm 6.
Okay, 6. So there were 6 kids that his grandparents had, and my family was a family of 5. And for all 5 of the kids in my family, there was either someone the same age as one of his grandparents' kids, or there was a grandchild that was about the same age as someone in my family. So for instance, Jerry's sister works as a court clerk, and I just left an assignment where I worked with her for the last 3 years. And my brother's best friend was best friends with one of his cousins growing up. One of my oldest sisters is still best friends with one of his aunts. So we go way back. I grew up here in Southeast San Diego. I went to St. Rita's right up the street from 4th grade through 8th grade. And I graduated from Crawford High School, so very local. I started buying comic books probably about age 10 or 11. And what I'd like you to know is, even though, I'm sure we'll see me, even though it may have seemed at first as if reading comic books wasn't a real, I guess, intellectual endeavor, my parents didn't mind. Because by reading comic books, I learned to develop my imagination. It really helped with developing my vocabulary. And basically, in many ways, the themes, the values that were expressed in comic books kind of shaped my values. I went on to become a journalist because of Clark Kent. I liked reading about Superman, and so I wanted to become a news reporter. And in high school, I was the editor of my paper. I went to college and I had a journalism scholarship, and I graduated with a degree in journalism. And I worked in that field for a couple of years. Then I went on to law school later, and for a number of years I worked as a prosecutor. I was a city attorney, and then I was a DA, a district attorney, and later I became a judge. It'll be 4 years next week since I became a judge. I won't take up too much more time, but what I did really enjoy about comic books, and I still do, and my daughter and my wife are here today. My daughter still is reading some of my Archie comics that I bought back in 1972, 74. So I held on to my Archie comic books, but unfortunately after I graduated from college, I sold all of my prized DC comic books, most of them. So I kicked myself later for that.
So then it's going to get you.
That's very interesting.
I still have my original Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Neil Adams issues. Got a couple of those. But reading comic books is something that will help you develop into a good student. It can help you expand into careers, whether it's a career that actually is in the artistic field, or whether it just is something that helps you to branch off into entertainment or any other field. But the important thing is read and work your imagination. Your imagination is like a muscle. And I think that if you're reading comic books or doing anything else that's productive, you're drawing, you're developing your mind so that you will be able to succeed and be happy while you're working.
Yeah, I can never understand why I became a animator and he became a judge. What's wrong with this bitch? I did well in school too. I had high marks. But no, it's been a fun career, you know, it's been a great career. But yeah, I guess the theme for today is like, what I really want you guys to get is that, you know, your love for comics and the fact that we are here in Southeast San Diego is actually to your benefit, because I know you'll try harder. You know, these are examples. I'm an example. He's an example. Brad is an example, and all my friends are examples because they came from situations or communities just like this. I guess our thing is when we pursue a career in the arts field, we really don't know. Coming from San Diego, we really don't get this exposure. We don't know anybody. That's why Brad is, you know, probably, you know, a fan of mine. I'm a fan of his. You know. But we don't really get to meet people that are network executives. I was so excited that a network executive came to my house yesterday. That was the first time in, what, a 30-year career. You know what I mean? But obviously Roland has been over to apartments. But yeah. Anyway, I'm going to continue. I guess the next speaker, I'm just going to go down the road. I'm going to have the gentlemen introduce themselves and tell you about what they do, who they are, and how they do it. Step up. Spider. Now, what comic book character is famous for getting bit by a spider? Spider-Man. That's a story, so make sure that you step on that spider. You won't become Spider-Man. So anyway, the next person I'd like to introduce you to you is my brother's fraternity brother, David G. Brown, who's an award-winning, what do you call it, editorial cartoonist. I like to say political cartoonist for the LA Watts Times and Sentinel. And yeah, I'll let him explain himself to you, and he has an interesting story. So here he is, David G.
Thank you, Jerry. My name is David G. Brown, and I'm a political cartoonist, an artist, graphic designer. I want to tell you a little bit about my career. One of the biggest things I want to share with you is my passion for working and teaching, working with young people. I just think it's really important, especially at this level in my career, to be able to share, you know, the inspirations and my passion for my work, you know, with young people. I think it's really important that you do that. So I'm a political cartoonist for a newspaper. It's called the Los Angeles Sentinel and Watts Times in Los Angeles. I also teach. I teach digital media, which means like graphic design on the computer. I also teach animation. And I teach for part-time for Cal Arts. And I actually have a program that's a partnership between Cal Arts and the Department of Mental Health. And so I go into the juvenile halls and work with young people in the juvenile halls. Because art is such a powerful tool for self-discovery for young people. I mean, oftentimes these at-risk kids don't really know who they are, and art is something that comes from inside of you. So art becomes a tool for you to self-discover. Also, in it also becomes a vehicle for you to embrace your uniqueness. And we're all very unique in a lot of ways. And oftentimes young people, they think that by being successful, they want to emulate, maybe the rap stars or the movie stars or the reality show stars. And I think it's really important that they discover, their blessings and their gifts. And art is a good way for them to discover that. So I'm going to talk just briefly about my career. My career has been very varied. I started out in advertising on the East Coast. I grew up on the East Coast. And then I moved to Los Angeles, where I got a job. I was working part-time for Filmation, and basically learned animation, doing storyboards and graphics involved in animation. From that, I also got involved with designing movie posters, or what they call key art. And I worked on a small film called New Jack City. Everybody ever heard of New Jack City? And I worked with Spike Lee's art director, a gentleman by the name of Art Sims. And I also worked on a movie called Jungle Fever. And that was a really good experience as far as just getting exposure, because I think one of the biggest things is just getting exposure to where you can take your art, and it just opened up a lot for me. From there, I did storyboards for advertising agencies. I also did some work on the Roseanne show. We had an episode where the young girl was into comic books, and so the writers wrote in this whole idea of this comic book. It was called Zombie High School, and it was a really cool concept. So I got to do this 6-page comic book about Zombie High School and all these different concepts and whatever. So I worked as a freelancer in animation and advertising for a number of years. And I moved to comic books. Sometimes you have events that happen around you that inspire you in certain ways. And I know since I was a kid, I always wanted to do a comic book, but I didn't know what I wanted to do about it or something that would inspire me. So in 1992, does anyone know what happened in Los Angeles in 1992? There was a little event, the Los Angeles riots, and that was actually the springboard that got me involved with the comic book industry. So I got a little mini grant from the city of Los Angeles, and I created a character. He's called the LA Phoenix. And I self-published this book in 1994. And actually that was the year I came to my first Comic-Con. And I was exposed to this whole world of comic books and what have you. And it was just a really exciting experience for me. But the biggest thing that I got out of that too is realizing what the possibilities were, in this industry. So I published a 3-book series about the LA Phoenix, and the whole premise of it is to show young people there's other ways of dealing with conflict and violence. And he has all non-lethal weapons, and deals with community issues. Issue number 1 has an anti-graffiti theme. Issue number 2 has an anti-gang theme to it. And issue number 3 has education and pro-educational theme, an anti-drug theme to it. So I did bring a handful of books for you to have in the back there. I also have a program that I started around the same time called Tales from the Kids. And this is a program where I work with young people in the community and give them the opportunity to create their own stories and ideas. And it just became a really wonderful tool in the community for them, especially young people, to allow themselves to discover their talent, and just a great way to express themselves. All positive messages. I also brought some Tales from the Kids books, and they're in the back too. I want to talk a little bit about my political cartoon career, because sometimes you have, you may have something in mind as far as where you want to take your career, and then events happen, that things that show up in your life, for certain reasons. So I left my job. This was in 2002 because I had several contracts that I had with the city of Los Angeles. And so as it happened, the city of Los Angeles was going bankrupt at the time. So these contracts that I had were suddenly dissipated. Around the same time, I got a call from the Los Angeles Sentinel newspaper. And they were aware of what I was doing in terms of the comic book stuff. And they asked me would I be interested in doing their political cartoons. And if I would have gotten those I probably wouldn't even have time to do it. So I'm just saying that to say that oftentimes things show up in your life when they're supposed to show up. So I want to just say to all the young people that I think one of the main things is to pursue what you love, or pursue what you're passionate about. I know my dad always felt that I needed to get like a professional career, and I think not until that I started getting the recognition and becoming successful in the industry to see how that, how you can make that into a career by following your passion. And art has taken me all over the world. I had an exhibit in Brazil about a year and a half ago. I was invited to the University of Akron to talk about race relations and political cartoons as a keynote speaker. Currently I have an exhibit at the Museum of African American Art in Los Angeles. So I'm just saying to say that following your passion, if you work hard at it, that it can take you way beyond where you think it may take you. So follow your passion and be willing to work hard at it and keep God first, and there's limitless what you can do with your life.
Thank you. Now David is an example of some of the kind of opportunities I'd like to create here in our community. He lives in Los Angeles, and I stay up there, when I have to work at the studio. But I tend to come back here to San Diego over to visit my dad, stay with my father. But I'd like to do some intercessory programs here in San Diego for the kids, so that this is just the beginning. I understand growing up here that the art programs have been decimated in the public schools. So, there is a chance that we'll be able to, meet again and work on some projects going into the year. Anyway, I'd like to, pass the mic over to Roland Poindexter and let him give you his wonderful story. Thank you.
First I want to say, first and foremost, everybody give Jerry a great big hand. It's funny, he's worked hard, put this whole thing together. It's nice and organized, and chairs, everything lined up the row. I'm about to mess up everything. Everybody that's in the back, if you can't hear, there's some chairs up here. If their chairs are all gone, you can come up here and sit on the floor, because these guys are dropping science. And some of you back there may not be able to hear, and I don't want you to miss anything. So if you're back there and you can't hear and you want to hear, you come up now. There's some chairs up here. Hurry before they're gone, or you can sit on the floor right up in the front here. Don't be shy. Come on up. We don't want you to miss anything. So, I know, not all at one time. Yeah.
They're all going to just stand right here.
While everybody is working their way up and in and around and back, and we'll do a quick little quiz here. How many of you have watched The Penguins of Madagascar? How many of you have watched Kung Fu Panda? How many of you have watched SpongeBob SquarePants? How many of you have watched Avatar: The Last Airbender or The Legend of Korra? Now I'm going to go back a little bit. How many of you have watched Power Rangers? How many of you have watched how many of you have watched Static Shock? How many of you have watched Justice League? How many of you have watched Batman? How many of you have watched Spider-Man? How many of you have watched Transformers? Well, those are just some of the shows that I have had the extremely good fortune to either develop or produce or both. I was just recently, as Jerry mentioned earlier, first of all, again, my name is Roland Poindexter. I was just recently Senior Vice President of Current Animation at Nickelodeon, which means that all of the animated shows that Nickelodeon has on the air basically I was the executive producer for it. And I was joking around with Jerry earlier. You know, the best part of my job was that I got the chance to meet and work with talented artists like all of the guys that you see at the panel here, and work with them to come up with ideas for shows, and then develop those shows, and then produce those shows. And they, along with a bunch of other talented people, would produce those shows, and under sort of my portfolio. And then once they got on the air and they became big hits, I got to get all the credit. So it's really been, it's been fun. But really quickly, I just kind of want to sort of briefly go through sort of my career. Born in LA, but I grew up in Detroit. And I want you guys, for those of you who I know you all live in San Diego, go, if you've ever been to the worst possible neighborhood you can think of in San Diego. Now, multiply that by 10, that's a lot of Detroit.
Not been in Detroit.
But it was a, believe it or not, in many respects, a very fun place to live and to grow up. And you know, like everybody here, when I was a kid, I loved comic books as well. Kid and teenager and an adult. I love comic books as well. And as the judge said, you know, I learned to read, basically reading comic books, and it expanded my vocabulary as well, and expanded my imagination as well as a kid. And that, coupled with cartoons on television, sort of inspired me to sort of want to pursue that and pursue that as a career. And nobody in my family and nobody in my community really sort of understood what I wanted to do, or, you know, could say, well, here, let me introduce you to this person, or let me show you how to do this. You know, no, there was no one there to sort of do that for me, but they also said to me, well, look, you can do whatever you want to do. You just need to, like, you know, work hard, do your best, and do your homework, and you can do whatever you want to do. So that's what I decided to do. And when I graduated high school, I actually, like all of these guys here, was an artist as well. And for some reason ended up going to college instead, but wanted to pursue animation nonetheless, and television as well. And did that. And you know, the interesting thing, and you've heard this a couple of times now, but you know, where you start out in your career isn't where you're going to be, you know, 5, 10, 20 years down the line. But you got to start somewhere, and especially when you don't know a lot of people in the industry, more often than not, you're going to start at the bottom. But you know, you work hard, you apply yourself, you be prepared for those opportunities, and take advantage of them when they come your way, and they will come your way. So I started out in one of the talent agencies, in the mail room, delivering scripts to, you know, production companies and actors and actresses. And Jerry, did I ever tell you the story about when there used to be this soap opera, and there was an actress on the soap opera that when I was a kid I had this huge crush on, and I had to deliver scripts up to her door, and so I was like, you know, I was really excited because I was going to meet this actress, and anyway. But in any case, you know, you start out doing these jobs that, you know, you never thought you'd find yourself doing that, and before you know it, you work hard, you're prepared, and opportunities find their way, and nothing personifies that more than this next quick story. This is really sort of how my career truly began. I was working as an assistant in drama development at ABC, and during the lunch break, I would always read. I'd read books about television, books about animation, books about, you know, anything having to do with where I was working because I wanted to be prepared if somebody asked me a question. I knew I'd know what I was talking about. So the guy who was head of development and production for the ABC network happened to be walking by. It was lunchtime, nobody was there. I was sitting at my desk reading this book, and it was a book about, you know, and this is getting kind of heady, but it was a book about sort of the psychology of television, and, you know, does the culture affect television shows, or does television shows affect the culture? And so he walked by, he asked me what I was reading. I told him what I was reading, and he just said, that's interesting, and he walked on about his business. The next day, my boss walked up to me when I got in the morning, and he just said, hey, you know what? Stu came into my office this morning, you're promoted. You're no longer sitting at the desk. You're going to be sitting in this office. You're going to be taking pitches. You're going to be a junior executive, and that's how my career started. You know, because so I say that to say, you know, you never know when your opportunity is going to come, so you need to be prepared for it, so that when it does come, you can take advantage of it, and also that nobody does anything alone. You know, there are always people out there that always are looking for smart, talented people to make their teams better, make their work better, and you just have to be open to the opportunities when they come your way. So from there, I ended up in a pitch. Somebody who I used to go to college with was now running this animation studio. And he said, hey, why don't you come and work for me? And so I did that, and started on the day of the LA riots. I was walking in the door, everybody else was running out. And from there, I actually I worked there a few years developing television shows and going out and pitching them to the networks. And that's how you gain your base of friends and professional acquaintances that you work with. You just kind of like, it kind of grows as you get older and start working in different professions. Very early in my career, I had the great fortune to meet Jerry, and in addition to being professionals together, we became friends, and they don't come any better than Jerry. Same thing with Dennis. You know, we started out as professionals and became friends. And that's one of the big bonuses of working in this industry, is that, you know, there are a lot of good people that make it up, as well as talented people, and before you know it, they're not only the people that you work with, they're the people that you're friends with, and so it becomes a great thing. So in any case, from there, I became one of the first creative executives at the Fox Kids Network. It was just starting, and worked on Power Rangers, worked on Batman, the animated series, worked on X-Men. And in my position, both then and now, like I said earlier, I was joking around, but what I do is I will go out and find, and this is what I would do in my early career at Comic-Con, because I too used to come down here pretty much all the time during the convention, looking for source material from independent comic books, and looking for specific talent to work with, so I would take those ideas and turn those into television series. So I did that for Fox Kids Network. I did that. Dennis and I worked together over at Warner Brothers Animation when he was producing his creation, Static Shock. And another quick thing about Dennis Cowan, he's going to go into this, but one of the most important things about Dennis is that he and another good friend of ours, the late great Dwayne McDuffie, and a couple other people, started the first independent black-owned comic book company. You know, Dennis is in more than one way an incredibly important figure in comic book and animation history, and we're all lucky that he's here today. So make a long story short, then I left Warner Brothers Animation and ended up at Nickelodeon, the largest kids network on television. And there, as I said, I developed shows like Family and Chum Chum and Legend of Korra and Kung Fu Panda and a host of other things. So again, I want to go back to, before I hand it off to Dennis, that if you remember one thing that certainly I've said today, it's that make sure you go to Detroit with an adult. And two, like, you know what, I started out, I didn't know anybody, all I knew is what I wanted to do, and I knew what I loved, and it has, working hard and being fortunate and learning from really great, talented people how to do my job better every single day has afforded me a career and a life that I love, and there isn't any reason why that can't happen for anybody else.
Thank you, bro. One of the best brothers I know on the planet. Well, I'm going to pass the mic over to Dennis Cowan.
You guys have said this legendary thing so much. I walked in and it was like, Dennis Cowan, he's legendary, then Roland and everybody. So then it gets to me and I'm like, I have no idea what to say. Are they all know? Cool. That's good. Anyway, wow, man. As soon as I get up there, like, hey, what are we gonna do? I'm so sorry. I know. They all left. They gotta go back. That's cool. Anyway, so then I'll make this really short since now. My name is Dennis Cowan. I'm an artist. I'm a comic book artist. That's how I refer to myself first. I've done many different things in my career. When I started out as an assistant at the age of 14 to a comic book artist named Rich Butler, and from there I went on to do my own comic books at 17 years old. I started out really young, but I was like one of those kids who was really focused and determined and really geeky, and my pants were pulled up here, and I had like the pencil pocket protector, the thick glasses, and the whole bit. So I was really geeky. But anyway, from there, I went to the High School of Art and Design. I decided that I wanted to be an artist, and I knew what I wanted to do. So while in high school, I ended up working as an assistant to different artists. From there, got my first professional assignments at 17 years old. I drew my own little comic books for DC. I did Superman backup stories and all kinds of stuff. I went on to do regular books for Marvel Comics. When I was about 19, 20 years old, I did a book called Power Man and Iron Fist for a couple of years, and then I did a series called The Black Panther. And there was a common theme, even at that time, through my work, and that I wanted to focus on black characters and characters of color. And that's where I found that I had the most fun. That's where I found I could do my best work. And I kind of got typecast like that. Man, this guy does all the black stuff. Oh, man, Dennis County does all the black stuff. But you know what? That's the best kind of typecasting you can have. You know, like that was no problem for me. I'm like, I was glad of that. I went on to work at DC Comics after a run at Marvel doing that stuff. I did a book called The Question. And I did that for about 3 years. And around the time that The Question was happening, I went back to Marvel because we do a lot of back and forth as a comic book artist. Sometimes we work for Marvel, sometimes we work for DC. If you're lucky, you can work for both at the same time. I ended up doing a book called Deathlock, and that's where I met Dwayne Dwayne was a black writer on Death Block, I was a black artist on Death Block. We made it into a black character. and Dwayne and I hit it up, had a lot of fun. And then we started a company called Milestone. And Milestone Comics, or Milestone Media's purpose was to introduce characters of color. Black characters, minorities, women, into the comics field because we were totally unrepresented, and the only way we were going to do it is if we did it ourselves. So we put together a universe of characters. Hardware, Icon, Rocket. The most famous one that we created was a character called Static Shock. And bought a package of proposal over to DC Comics, presented to them. They decided to do it. A year later, we were up and running as a comic book company, being distributed by Warner Brothers, DC Comics. We were very, very fortunate. After that, that's where the TV show came from. That's when I met Roland. We were pitching all that stuff and going back and forth, and we helped develop Static and all the stuff that we did. That was a lot of fun. Dwayne and I did that. I was the producer, director on the 3rd series, producer on the 4th season. And from there, I went to work for Sony and developed with a gentleman named Aaron Magruder a series called The Boondocks. And we did that, we did that for Cartoon Network over at Sony for the 1st season, and that was groundbreaking in a lot of ways. Not all good. We'll just say not all good. Some ways weren't so good. But we did it. And now we got Black Dynamite, we got a whole lot of other stuff. And I'm like, what have we done? So from the Boondocks, I went on to work at BET, Black Entertainment Television, and there I ran the animation division for about 4 years at BET, which is a whole different experience. Roland knows all about BET. But it was valuable, it was good, we did a lot of good stuff. The Black Panther series, the animated series, came out of BET, and that was one of the things I developed there. And read a book and all kinds of stuff we did over there that was quite controversial. After BET, I went back to doing comic books. It was like, time to do some more comic books. So since then, I've done Batman. I've done a new book I have out now. It's called Voodoo Child. It's a Vertigo book. It stars a black female lead character. So that's a lot of fun. And that's about it. I mean, you've heard all the inspirational things that you could probably hear from people up here who've accomplished far more than I have. But I do know this. I do know that if you follow what you love, what you really love, so many good things will happen. If you stick to your passion, so many good things will happen. I mean, all the kids are gone, and this was really, kind of for them too, so we want to speak to them. But same rule applies to this young man and all the, people in the audience. Aside from that, I think any questions that people have at this point, because my biography is biography, but any questions that people have, I'll be happy to answer. And then, do you want me to give it to you? That's the brand new. Yeah, you need the mic.
No questions?
No, afterwards.
Hi, everybody. Actually, I'm kind of sorry to see all the kids go too, but what we'll do is we will put this on a DVD, and we will send the DVD here to the center, and make sure that when kids come here and they have access to a DVD player or whatever, they can hear these words over and over again and be inspired as often as they like. I think that would be a good idea. I just realized I'm the only white guy here. So I'm going to represent. My name is Brad Constantine. I did grow up in San Diego. I grew up in Claremont. I went to Madison High School. I graduated in 1984, and if you look in history for animators, 1984 may have been either the worst year for animation or the second worst year for animation. It was a dying art at that time, and I was a kid in high school, and that was my only interest. When I was a kid, I went and saw Jungle Book, And I was fascinated. I was like, wow, why are those cartoons so much better on the screen than they are on TV? I want to know everything about that. I got a movie camera when I was a kid. I found some cartoons at a garage sale. I got a Super 8 projector and I would watch them back and forth and slow and everything. And I went to Aaron Brothers Art Mart and I bought a $5 book called How to Animate Film Cartoons. And they had little walk cycles in there, and I traced those and I copied. And I realized really quickly that animation may be the hardest art form that there is. You know, I had friends who were graphic designers who would do one drawing and get $1,000. And here I'm doing 1,000 drawings and I'm not even getting $1. So here it was, 1984, and I graduated from high school, and I was fortunate enough to go down to the Comic-Con on a friend's recommendation. And as soon as I got down to the Comic-Con, I happened to meet the guy who started at Sheldorf, and I told him, I said, you know, when I grow up I want to be an animator, and I don't know what to do. And he goes, well, you know what, we have some animators here. And they had some animators from Don Bluth who were at the Comic-Con sitting at a table, so I went over and I asked them, and I said, you know, what do I need to do to become a professional animator? And they said, well, you need skills. I'm like, skills? They said, well, do you draw? And I said, yeah, I draw. And I said, well, do you have any drawings? And I go, yeah, I have some drawings. And I showed them some cartoons that I had done, and they were all of the same kind of thing. You know, you have friends that draw cars, and you have friends that draw, you know, sports things and that kind of thing. All of mine were the same kind of thing. And he says, no, you really have to learn how to draw. You need some real skills. You need to go to school, and you need to study life drawing. You need to study movie making. You need to study acting. You need to study design. You need to study animation itself, you know, how it works and timing and all that sort of thing. So that's exactly what I did. And even though I grew up in Claremont, I didn't have any money. You know, I was poor. I went to Mesa College and got all of my education at $50 a unit. And it was a good education. There were good art teachers there, dedicated people who really wanted to share their passion for art, guys like Jerry. And then right after that, as soon as I had run out of classes to take at Mesa, there was an ad in the paper for an animation presentation in La Jolla. And it was Bruce Smith, and it was Jerry, and Will Finn, and Chuck Jones was going to be there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's my dream come true. There's some people in San Diego, because there was no animation in San Diego. Everything was in LA, Hollywood. And I go to this thing, and Jerry was there, and some of these Hollywood animators, and they gave me hope that there was still going to be an animation business. And so I learned animation, and I got my first job working on a TV show. And that first job, it was 2D animation, but it was the first animated show ever done on computers. And I had never used a computer before. And I remember I went for the interview the first time, and I had all these great drawings, and I showed it to him, and the guy said, so, do you know how to use a computer? And I'm like, no. And he said, well, come back in 6 months. So what I did is I went out and I bought a computer, and this is before Windows, it's all DOS and everything like that. And I learned to use a computer, and I came back in 6 months, and showed them the drawings. They liked the drawings. They said, do you know how to use a computer? And I said, yes. And I got hired. I said, geez, all I had to do was say yes the first time. No test, no nothing. So my advice to you is when you go for that first job, and they say, so do you know how to do something? You say yes. And then you go home that night and you learn it before you gotta go ahead. So I want to talk just real quick about skills, okay? I kind of consider myself a self-taught artist with a lot of guidance from people who had professional experience and that sort of thing. But like I said before, I want to show you some drawings real quick. If there are folks here who would like to become an animator, 2D animator, 3D animator, that sort of thing, you need to develop skills, artistic skills. Many times when you are hired as an animator, you are going to be working in a style that is not your own style. You're going to be bringing somebody else's characters to life, and that's what your job is, that's what you do. So you have to learn to work in different styles. You have to learn to work in, let's say, like a Disney style. And you have to learn to draw on, let's say, a Nickelodeon style. You have to learn to draw in a Warner Brothers style. You have to learn to, Cartoon Network style. and all of these different things. And you got to bring some of your own chops to the program. You've got to be able to work quickly, and you've got to be able to follow direction. And the most important thing that I learned after being an animator, my 22nd year as being a professional animator, is you got to be a team player. You have to be somebody who gets along with people. You got to be someone who is willing to put any kind of baggage that you have when you walk in that door to go to work behind you and concentrate on what you are doing and what you need to get done. I meet so many people who have had troubled lives or difficult pasts and that sort of thing, and they come in to work and it really affects the way they get things done. You know, everything that I've worked on has been a team effort. Everybody relies on me to do my job, just as I rely on everybody else on my team, especially at Sony. I'm a 3D animator at Sony. We are spending $100 million on a project. It takes 4 years, 5 years to do some of these projects. When I wake up in the morning and I go into work, I keep that in the back of my mind every single day, that they are spending millions and millions of dollars. So I have to give them my very best every day, every single day. I do my homework at night. You know, if you think homework ends when you get out of school, not for an artist. You're always learning something new. Computer programs, new drawing skills, new styles of drawing, that kind of thing. So my advice to any of you who want to pursue the arts, get your skills up, work hard, and that will sell you. You know, and yourself. Be a good person. Be nice, friendly to people. Seriously. Thank you so much for having me. It was really my pleasure to come out. Thank you.
You go free to whoever wants.
Now I think, yeah, I'm taking Dennis's suggestion and open it up for questions and answers. Yeah. I'm sorry the kids left, man.
No, right in the middle of
It was. But, you know, business as it may, you know, it's the initial event. Hopefully, you know, we can.
That's all good. They saw us, right?
Yeah, they saw us. And we're here.
And we'll be back.
And we'll be back.
And we will be back.
We'll be back next year to get the word out.
And we'll bring the news with us next year.
Bring the news and bring the fire. But basically, you know, you can't get any better than this panel.
Yeah. Hey, oh, and if anyone's interested in seeing some 3D graphics, if you're interested in learning 3D animation or getting into game design or any of that sort of thing, I would have some samples over here for you to look at. These are the kinds of things that we look for, and the kind of things that we do on a day-to-day basis. Please come over, ask me questions.
Now, did you guys know that San Diego was really big for 3D, you know, animation and games?
Yeah.
And
I don't even get paid to draw.
You don't get paid to draw.
No, I don't even draw my
artists, you know. And I remember something Brad told me a long time ago about testing, you know, because this was like the 2000s and, you know, we were relating to the 80s. Had that job testing been available, we would have done that instead of some of the jobs we did do to make quick money, like, you know, pumping gas. You know, you get paid to play a game and write reports, you know. And I just want to acknowledge all my students, all my former students here that are here. You know, Antoine, Billy, Kevin, my cousin Kevin helped me put the show together. My sister Suzanne and Sharon Brice help finance it, you know, put it together. And all my dear old friend, Tanya Diggs, Roland, and the fact that USC is representing today. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. Although I went to Cal Arts. But anyway, I'd like to open it up for questions and answers. So you know, it's a smaller crowd now, so I recognize a lot of you are, you know, pursuing the arts as a career. So,
can you, any of you, compare how, compare from 30 years ago to the present day, how the industry has gotten more culturally diverse, and has it gotten more culturally diverse in the past 20, 30 years?
Which industry?
The comic book industry and the animation industry. So I assume 20, 30 years ago it was a lot less diverse. I assume it's maybe getting a little better.
Have you read comic books lately, or are you still in comics?
No, I haven't.
I don't know how much more diverse they've gotten in 20 years. You know, in terms of, I mean, you might see more characters of color, but what are they doing? You know, you could paint a guy black and have him fly around a lot. Do that all day. You know, but what are you talking about? How are these stories meaningful? How are they entertaining and yet uplifting? Is there a lot of that, is what you want to ask, and the answer is no.
that. What about as far as animators and cartoonists?
Yeah, I think, you know, the answer is yes and no, because there are more characters of color in certainly in animated shows, and a lot of animated features too. There is more. There's a greater number of actors who get the opportunity to perform in shows and television. Certainly, if you're talking about 20 years, is it enough? No. But compared to what it was 20 years ago,
it is
yes,
more.
it's more. I think the biggest area where there is still a profound lack of diversity, both with regards to, you know, people of color and gender, is in the actual production of the stuff itself. You know, you don't see a lot of female artists. You don't see a lot or writers, or you know, animators. You just don't see a lot of that. You certainly don't see a lot of people in the executive offices. I mean, the biggest thing, one of the biggest factors in increasing the presence of people of color and women in those areas is if there are people in the executive offices who can sit up and recognize, oh, hey, we need, just to make things interesting, we need to, you know, add more diversity within the ranks of everything that we do. And in addition to that, it's going to make us that much more competitive because everybody is watching and reading our stuff.
That's right.
So the more that we bring in different perspectives and different viewpoints, the more competitive we're going to be. Again, it's better than it was 20 years ago. It's not nearly good enough.
Can I add to that? From an independent standpoint, I know I published my first self-published book, and this was in the mid-90s. And at the time, there were, I think, 5 different distributors at that time. And now I think it's a little more challenging to get into the marketplace. Also because Hollywood has been a big part of changing the comic book industry too. So they're more reluctant, they're less reluctant to be open to look at things that maybe aren't as well established and don't have a following. And so I think it's more challenging, you know, for the independent creator. I mean, unless they get the attention of some big entity or corporation or studio to really help market their work. I think it's a little challenging. Also, I think there's more mergers. So you have these big corporations that are multimedia companies, and so once they have an intellectual property, they're marketing all the different media. So I think it's a little more challenging to introduce new content and new talent into the marketplace.
Well, it's funny, just kind of to piggyback on that, when Jerry was mentioning the Comic-Con in the 70s and how it literally, and you know, I remember that and other conventions around the country, but certainly even when I started going to it in the 80s, it was about the size of this room. Maybe it was even a little smaller, you know. And one of the things that it always strikes me whenever, you know, we hear any report on a Comic-Con when they say, oh, you know, it's the nerd convention, or all these derisive things to sort of categorize it, because it actually was that back then. Now it is the epicenter of the entire Hollywood-driven business. Everything that they're talking about this weekend, that's what pays for everything in Hollywood.
And you can't separate them anymore.
No, you can't separate them.
You can't say, okay, we're going to have a Hollywood con and a game con and a comic con.
No, it's all together.
They're all combined.
And all of the people that they call the geeks and nerds or whatever in whatever crap paper or magazine they're talking about, those are the people that are coming up with the ideas and support the ideas that are driving, arguably now, the most important economic sector in this entire country. You know, the Avengers the movie cost, what, 150 million to make, maybe close to 200 million?
Yeah,
to make. Well, and 400 million if you add marketing. By the time they finish with the box office distribution and home video and online distribution, it's going to make about $2.5 to $3 billion. You know, it's the biggest movie ever. You know, and this is the first one. When they do the second and the third one, it'll be, you know, as big as Star Wars ever was. Everything is driven by this industry, and you're right, it's corporately driven now, and that in combination with the changes in distribution, primarily through online, has really sort of restricted opportunities in some areas, but then it's opened in others.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention too, also with the internet, I think it's opened up an opportunity for independent creators to utilize social media and the internet to market their entities themselves. And I just think that more independent creators and more diverse group of creators gives an opportunity in terms of just reaching their audience through the internet.
You're starting to see more and more things get picked up for television and movies from online now. You're starting to see a lot more of it. So you don't necessarily just need to go the sort of corporate route. You can do your own thing, create your own following, and
it's harder to get in at the same time. It's easier to get in than ever.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you know, how it's affecting me.
Very interesting time.
Yeah, it's very interesting. How it's affected me is that I used to like to pitch shows to networks and sell them and get them developed and get paid to do that. Little different business from 1990 than it is now, when actually the studios would pay you, you know, if they like to pitch, they pay you to develop it. You know, I sold, what, 3 or 4, you know, deals, like a couple of them went to Pilot. You'll never see them unless you go to my website. You know, but they were big stars, and then we had that business. It was nice. What changed for me is when Bill Clinton became president, he relaxed the financial syndication rules, and so now all the distributors were able to produce their own shows, so that knocked out a lot of the people that would finance my shows, like the incredible Phil Roland, an independent producer. It actually flies in the face of the antitrust laws, but I won't go in that rant. I want to go there.
But you can make something good, rather inexpensively now at home. Put it on the internet.
Yeah, this is the point. You know,
get a deal from it.
For the past, like what, since 2000, since I stopped teaching at AI, you know, I've been online, and what I've noticed is that there are kids that are 19 years old in New Orleans. My favorite stuff to watch online cartoon is this company called Broken Equipment. You know, and these guys are good friends of mine now. They're kids. They look up to my work. You know, but I tell them, every time they post something, they get 1 million views on YouTube. You know, every time.
Make money now.
Yeah, and now they're bosses. You know, they run their own thing. They're independent animation. They don't have a TV show. I don't even know if the TV network. I'm pretty sure the TV networks know of them, but you know, their stuff is so, you know, profanity laced, etc., that it won't come on TV. Well,
but that's
maybe.
And that's the thing. It's like, do what you want to do. Don't tailor it to be something that you think is going to sell to them.
Yeah.
Do what you want to do, because that love, that passion, that focus, that vision, that's what they're looking for before they even know they're looking for it.
Yeah. Do not try to sell them something that you think will work for them. Don't tailor your ideas to sell to. That's the kiss of death. And I'll also say to this in front of that tip, don't break your whole your love for artistic artistry, basically. Don't break that down to how much people are paying you or if they pay you or not. That's the kiss of death. Be an artist, love to draw, love to, you know, like Brad, love to increase your drawing skill, your knowledge of computer programs, if you're getting paid or not. Because when you do get paid, it'll be gravy, but when you're not getting paid, you're putting in the work. You're putting in the practice to get paid. It kind of distresses me when I talk to artists, young artists, old artists, when they break their whole career down to, you know, their paycheck from somebody else, because I know that they're fake, man. You know, the real artist is going to be those guys doing graffiti. They're real artists, but the ones that are good, they're really great artists. In today's society, the internet, you know, I'm going to tell all my friends that have big names or followings, etc., that this is your, the play is to go independent on a project and be persistent and pump it. I mean, what's that little cat cartoon that Disney just picked up? Simon's Cat.
Oh, they picked it up?
They picked it up.
Someone had.
And they're financing.
And that guy sits home all day.
Yeah. So it's really, I would say this, it's probably really hard, you know, I mean, it's hard to get arrested in some of these studios now. I mean, you know, Dennis has so many people from the boondocks working and Cartoon Network now, running things. And they're all young, they hate on older people. You call me old, I'm 47, they hate on older people. But basically, it's like they're all incredible artists, and you just got to step it up and go to their venues. And I think that, you know, once, I understand older artists, because I was really upset that people were not paying for pitches anymore. I was mad about that. But the business changed, and we just adjust the change in the business. Yes, sir.
I've known these folks, we grew up together. I've known Jerry since he was like 17 years old, known Roland forever. We got quite a history, but what I wanted to share, because I also work in advertising, is that the information that they've come here to share is incredible. As young Hispanics, as young African Americans, our parents want us to be doctors. They want us to be lawyers. These very traditional roles that this brother spoke about. But there are all sorts of incredible, fun jobs that you can actually get paid for. I work for Sony. I work for Toyota now. I work for Burrell Advertising. I do events. I go to the BT show.
She's like
you know.
Victorian. I remember that. She's 4.0 the girl.
There are great jobs, you know, creating video games, all these types of things that sometimes parents look down on their kids who are doing, like reading comic books. But if you have the type of excitement in the work that you do, the same type of excitement as someone had a speech at TED about the feeling of playing video games. So when kids play video games, they're going to figure it out. They don't need a book, they're going to figure it out. They're going to get to the next level and the next level, and they're not going to stop until they win the game.
Right.
That type of passion is the type of passion you need to have about your life.
Yes.
The same type of excitement you feel when you hit that level is what you need to feel about your career, about your family, about your life. And again, I didn't create this. A woman at the TED convention was speaking about this, and it's an incredible conversation, but there's fun work out there. You don't have to slave and be unhappy. You can do fun stuff. It's okay if you play video games, not during the week, because you're supposed to be studying, but it's okay if you play video games, but know that there are all sorts of careers, and these folks have come down to Southeast, they're not over down there downtown, Southeast, right where we are, to tell us these stories, and I hope people really value what they brought. So I just want to say, although the kids left, us old folks, we get it too, so thank you.
The thing too is that when you play that video game, like a lot of people will sit up and say, a lot of kids will sit up and say, well, I can do better. All right, well, do it. You know, because you never know where it's going to go, and you never know. Who knows if you're going to sell that game or not? But maybe that'll inspire you to do something else that then will become your life's passion or career. So, you know.
Yeah, I just finished working 8 years on kids games. I did one called Free Roams, and I just finished Clone Wars Adventures for LucasArts. And I have a 12-year-old son in the back there, and I get more ideas from him that end up in the games than I do from the adults. I find adults are creatively yes, they are. When they get older, they lose it a little bit. Okay.
I just had a comment to make, just to thank all of you for putting this together. As a mom of a girl that likes to draw 6 hours or more per day, and not knowing what is this going to turn into, encouraging her, but what could it be? So hearing from you guys, and especially you who said even at a young age you found something to do with it that, you know, you don't have, I mean, I do want her to go to school, and I'm at CalArts, I'm like, where is that? There's a place for her.
You know, you're looking at the luckiest people on earth on the stage.
Yeah.
We're the luckiest people on earth. We get to get up and do what we love. I'm not necessarily pumping gas, so I'm sure people love that, or digging ditches. I get up and I get to draw guys flying around, you know, in costumes all day long.
See, but I'm going to add to that, because I believe that you make your own luck as well. Yes. I believe in life that you can put yourself in the position that you need to be in to make those opportunities available. If you develop your drawing skills and you meet the right people and you can create those opportunities for yourself. Doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, whatever.
But you know what? The other thing too, especially for you, is to become an artist and to make a living at it, or you know, to do what these gentlemen are doing, you're gonna get knocked down a lot. Is what people aren't telling you too. People are gonna tell you can't do it, you're not any good. Your friends will be like, what you doing that for? Come hang out. You're gonna hear all kinds of stuff. As you start showing your work to people, some people like it, some people won't, whatever. The most important thing is to never give up. Never, ever, ever.
And while you're young, there are lots of avenues to use your art in a constructive way. When I was young, and I got into high school, the first people I hooked up with were the football team. Now, one reason was, you know, it's nice to have that kind of protection in high school. Second thing is that I could do artwork for the football team, banners and signs and things. I did ribbons for the cheerleaders. I did drawings for the yearbook. I did comic strips for the school paper. You can get your name out there at a very young age. I had my own button and t-shirt business when I was 17 years old. You know, I was making $10,000, $20,000 just selling t-shirts.
I need some t-shirts.
Yeah. But one thing I found out is that, you know, especially now with the internet, is that I'm getting education from the internet. You know, when I use very difficult 3D programs for my work, and I have to learn a new version of that software every year. They upgrade it every about 8-9 months, and I have to learn whatever. But I can go online and find tutorials. I can find free evaluation copies of software for students. So if you're a student and you're registered full-time, even in high school or college, you are eligible to purchase programs like Photoshop and Flash and even some 3D programs like Maya or whatever at a really discounted rate. Where programs would normally cost $1,000, you can get them for $200. And if you have a PS3 at home that costs $300, and you don't have a program that costs $200, then you might want to question your priorities. Anyway, you know, I find lots of people have video. That's why I asked the kids earlier, who has a computer at home? Who has a video game system at home? Somehow kids get these things. They get smartphones, and they get whatever stuff. When they need to get tools to start learning and getting ready for life, you know.
And a really quick story, the show Fanboy and Chum Chum. Creator's name is Eric Robles. Eric Robles is the first generation son of immigrants from Mexico. He didn't know anything about the animation business. Learned to draw himself just doodling. He was in community college in criminal justice to become a police officer. And Eric is a very manic guy, so he can't sit still. So he was always doodling in his book when he should have been paying attention. And he finished the test, and he had all these doodles in his book. The instructor saw the doodles and happened to have a sister who worked in the animation industry. Took him aside and said, "What are you doing here? What are you? Look at this. Look at what you're doing in the back of your test. You passed, but that's not the point. You should be doing something else." He had his sister set him up with an interview over at, I believe, Roland. And he just started drawing a bunch of stuff. He didn't have a portfolio. He wasn't prepared. This is back in the days when this was pre-internet. Didn't have any knowledge of what he needed to bring. Met with this guy, showed him all of his drawings. He did hundreds of drawings, like literally in a couple of nights in preparation for this meeting. The guy told him, "You know what? You're never going to be an animator. You need to go back to school and become a cop." Right? Eric loved doodling, loved drawing, and he was like, "You know what? The hell with that. I'm going to pursue this." He started drawing even more. He read everything he could about, you know, creating the right kind of portfolio. He went back in 6 months, and he actually went to another studio, Braz Entertainment at that time. He got hired. He started out as a storyboard artist. Before he knew it, he was head of the storyboard department. a little while later, the guy who told me he would never be an animator started working for him.
I think this was the exhibit. I didn't know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to introduce Lalo, since we're talking about fabulous Lalo Alcaraz.
Also known as Lalo Alcaraz.
There you go. But man, you know, this, talking about Herb, I don't know if you and Roland know that we all three work at Herb magazine at the same time.
Oh wow. Yeah, they remember me.
But when he first was doing La Cucaracha, you got familiar with that comic, you know, it was one panel and Herb, and I remember when Roland showed that to me, I said, man, we gotta have this guy here, because he had No Joke was my strip, and Eddie Blunt, which was a different, you know, twisted image, and we needed La Cucaracha, and then, you know, years later, you know, I'm following him on the internet, and he's calling me up, and now here he is today to share his story. But, you know, I follow this man's comic strip, and he's somebody that we should all look up to in this business and as a human being. Political activist, and I'll let him talk.
Yeah, so what did I miss? I heard like the whole elementary school just left because they heard I was on my way.
No, it wasn't you.
So what are we talking about? Are we giving our inspirational stories or what? Well, I was going to be a cop, and I'm just kidding. I was never going to be a cop. Well, I grew up down the street in Lemon Grove, actually, and I was at a party, and I said, I was telling someone at a party, I want to be the most famous person from Lemon Grove, and this guy said, oh yeah, that's cool, man, I grew up in Lemon Grove. I go, really? He goes, yeah, I grew up there with Dennis Hopper. I said, oh crap. Well, anyways, I hope to be the second most famous person from Lemon Grove. I started drawing, working at the Centro Cultural de la Raza in Balboa Park when I was a teenager, drawing murals, doing murals, assisting the painters there, learning about Chicano art, which they taught me to how to make art political, that it was okay to make art about something, and it's also, you know, good to make a pretty picture, but it's also you know, not everyone is turned on by political art, but sometimes it is necessary and it is what you need at the moment. I became a political cartoonist, an editorial cartoonist, by drawing in, like everybody else, in my college newspaper at San Diego State, the Daily Aztec, and I was the editorial cartoonist there. And then went on, when young people come up to me, sometimes I'm approached by, you know, a kid and their mom, and they say, well, my kid's wants to be an artist. I said, well, let me see your work. This has happened more than a couple times. Let me see your work. Oh, no, I can't show you my work because people might steal my great ideas. And I go, look me home. That's not how it works. The way you become an artist is you stick your neck out there. You go, you draw your thing. Your drawings are going to suck for a long time. But then one day, magically, they will stop sucking. And they're going to become fantastic. But it's only because people are there telling you, God, that sucks, you better try something new. And I don't mean, you know, go be a cop, but I mean, work on your skills. And then pretty soon, if you just keep bashing your head against that wall, one day, man, you're going to become a great artist. Yeah, it takes time and dedication. So my thing was drawing editorial cartoons for newspapers. From that, I started drawing right after the LA riots. I was invited to submit my strip to the LA Weekly, and that's where I started drawing my strip called, it was originally called LA Cucaracha, and it was a weekly panel about politics and about Chicano culture and immigration issues. 10 years ago, I started drawing La Cucaracha as a daily comic strip, and it's here in the Union Tribune every day. They still haven't cut it yet, but they've dropped me from a lot of papers, but you know why. But and also, you know, the daily comics suffer from the the syndrome that happens in many fields. It's the we've got one already. So if, you know, I think African American cartoonists know exactly what I'm talking about. If you try to pitch your daily comic strip to syndicates, the syndicates are open to accept your pitches, but the problem is when it comes to the newspaper pages, which tend to be stuck in 1957, they will say, oh my gosh, we can't have your African American themed comic strip. We've already got one. But they don't say, oh, we love your talking puppy strip, but we've already got 14 of them. Edition, Latino USA, Cartoon History, that's available all over the place. I'm actually going to be at the Roots Factory in Logan Heights tomorrow night with DJ Boxy D, who is back there in the clearly marked t-shirt that identifies him. And he's going to be spinning. I'm going to be doing my comedy show. I showed my cartoon slides, make everybody kind of sort of chuckle. And then I'm going to be selling and signing stuff. They're going to do live printing of some of my designs. There's a band. It's the Roots Factory is in Logan Heights. I forgot the address, but it's
8th Street, 1800 Main Street.
Yeah, I live in LA, so oh yes, I do a radio program. But I forget how cute San Diego is. It's so tiny. It's like a snow globe. People go, oh my God, I'm stuck in traffic in San Diego. No, you're not. That's not traffic. You don't know what traffic is.
You can see our mountains.
Yeah, you can see. I can get on the roof and see the whole place. Right? So, you know, but I'm also working a new history book. I'm writing a new kids book called Little Moco about a really obnoxious little Chicano kid. He was a pet chupacabra and the whole thing. Yeah, and that was my test marketing right now. See if we can and also I'm writing a TV pilot for a major TV network, and it's an animated show with Latino characters in it, and it's the closest I cannot tell you who it is for, but it is for someone who has a TV network. And it is the closest I've come in about 15 years in which I've worked in Hollywood writing screenplays, actual paid screenplays and stuff that you'll never see, but the many times that I've pitched and actually been in development in animation, this one may be it. And I have a deal with my kids that if my show gets on the air next year or any time, that I have to buy them a treehouse. And so that's their bribe, you know. Instead of like telling them shut up when I'm drawing, I go treehouse, or when I'm writing. But yeah, it's gonna be. And actually, the show is kind of based on San Diego, which is really freaky and weird. So, but I can't really tell you too much about it because
Some might steal it.
Yeah, someone might steal it. No, the lawyer told me somebody might steal it, so I should shut up now. We'll see. Any other questions? Oh, well, I do a radio show also, the Ocho Hour Power. It's actually, yeah, I have to call in at 4 o'clock. Oh, we're good. But it's on the KPFK radio in Los Angeles. I've been doing it. It's kind of funny. It's like, there's a word in Spanish, desmadre, that describes my show. But it's, yeah.
Can you translate that?
Translate that? It's a hot mess. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, so yeah, I write a bunch of things on Twitter. If you ever, I have a very good friend of mine. His name is Mexican Mitt Romney, and he is one of the hottest fake political accounts on Twitter. He's named the funniest by Politico. Actually, it's at Mexican Mitt, and he is like, you know, Mitt Romney is from Mexico, right? He's basically a Chicano. His dad's from Mexico, and he's got cool hair, so he's Chicano in my book, I guess. So anyway, Mexican Mitt is his alter ego, and he's also running for president right along. And actually, Mexican Mitt Romney just spoke to the NAACP. And that article, that transcript is up at Tolcho.com. If you want to be, if you're not easily offended, then please go and you'll be shocked and amused. Okay, I'm done. La cucaracha.
Thank you. So as you can see, you can create your own, industry, and you create your own cartoons. He's doing it all himself, and so did you. Now, if there's any more questions? Yes.
Might there be opportunities for portfolio reviews? Yes?
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
So is there any other questions?
I'm going to reiterate the question I said earlier about diversity. Do you find the field that you're in is more diverse now than it was, say, when you started out?
It's more diverse than it was 50 years ago, I guess. A little bit. I mean, there's not that many, as far as Latinos, there's not that many Latino creators out there, but they have to bubble up. I mean, it's just, I think a lot of people are doing other stuff than my dinosaur of a field, the daily comic strip and paper, they're evolving the web comics and things, and I think I'm hopeful that people are doing other things. They're creating characters. I also teach at Otis College of Art in Los Angeles, and we had a big review with a lot of the students there, and I think a big trend right now is for people create their little alt characters. They're like sheep with fangs, and it's a kind of like juxtaposed magazine type, devil babies and stuff, whatever. And and I thought, well, this is cool. It gets people to thinking about characters, but none of these students could tell me. I would ask them, well, what's your character's name? They didn't even have a name, a story behind it, nothing. They just were like doing this kind of one-dimensional little thing that they are copying from somewhere else. And I think. Sorry?
Zombie cat juggler.
Sure, I mean, at least, give me a name like Zombie Cat Juggler, but they wouldn't, they weren't thinking the thing through. So I would hope that, to create stories, to create strips, to create comic books, characters need to come to life. So, you need, people have to sock themselves in the head. I don't know what they got to do. They got to push themselves and think, I'm creating this universe. So it applies to all of our fields.
I know it's hard for me to really even do a storyboard or do a character design unless I know the character's history or have a story behind it. Other than that, I'm just drawing. We all can draw. If you hang around a lot of artists, you almost take it for granted. I expect Bruce Smith to show me a cool drawing every time I see him. Because he's been doing it for the past 30 years. So, what you really need to set something apart is the character's personality. I started to realize I come back to Charlie Brown, which is one of my favorite cartoon characters over the years, because I like his personality and likeness and Lucy, Snoopy, etc. And that's probably why I follow a lot of things. And I'm pretty sure, like when I worked with Jeffrey Katzenberg, really thinking about him is that he represented the everyman. And I do believe that if you have that kind of eye for the everyman and you tell a story, that your cartoons will work. I mean, every cartoon we did at Disney was a big hit. And I've seen that happen even from independents. I've seen the same thing. So I don't think that you really need a bunch of money to I can't pay Lalo to be dope. I mean, he was going to be dope anyway. Nobody has to pay me to create a cool cartoon. I just do it anyway. Sometimes we post stuff up on Facebook just to make our friends laugh, which is appreciated. So, is there any more questions?
I have a comment to make. I work at the Art Institute as a career advisor, and I've been doing it for 9 years.
Lisa, get out.
I'm a Lebanese Mexican, Born here. But what I've seen, actually, we just had our highest game artist hired. He's Mexican, and he's working for BioWare in Edmonton. They even paid for him to travel to Canada. And that's the highest amount of money I've ever seen from a grad right out of school. And actually, we just had 3 picked up, 3 Mexican kids picked up, and we're doing really, really well in gaming. There are special interest groups that are have organized to kind of help the minority status in animation and in games. There's women in animation. There's women in games or wiki. And there's also blacks in games, which they're a special interest group. They tend to have parties together. So it's kind of fun and happening. You know, you go there, they create events so that it brings industry to the event so that people can network and connect. And it also generates scholarships. Even Sony was participating. I don't know if you still have it.
Yes,
Girl,
we do. Yes.
Girl Gamers.
Girl Gamers. It's an acronym.
So if there are women who are or girls who are interested in getting into games and going to school to learn how to design games, you can compete to get this scholarship and can show your portfolio and may get a chance to get $10,000 towards your education.
And that's, you know, a lot of times people get kind of skittish if they're of a different race, if they should refer to me as a black artist or animator because they think, and I would take that as being disparaging. And, you know, I kind of look at it like this, it's kind of like true, first of all. You know, so, you know, it's accurate, you know. So, like this was saying, you know, I wear that proudly. I'm a black, you know, animator. But hopefully you don't feel bad about black people. Right? Basically, it's just you're saying it. We're black animator. I think like if you're a black, blue, white, yellow, whatever animator or artist, comic book, you know, creator or executive, the main thing that you have to be is really good.
Yeah.
You know, you know, I know a lot of brothers come to me, you know, they see I'm, you know, they think I'm cool, hey man, what's up? And then they show me their artwork and it's amateurish and stuff. And like, you know, can I work on your next project? And I'm like, well, you know, probably not, man. And I show them something from another, you know, white, black, brown, whatever artist, you know, come at me like this and we can, you know, do some things. But, you know, be that as it may, take advantage of any special interest group. If they want to pay a scholarship, money is tight now for everybody, and that's your advantage. You know, take advantage of all these things, apply for everything, and just put yourself out there. That's what we
work hard
and work really hard. That's, you know, when I was working on Herb, I had day jobs and stuff, and that was something I was doing literally. We did it for free because hey, I like all the, you know, everybody, you know, chill. If you really looked at everybody that worked on Herb back in the day, they're all doing these TV shows and things that you're watching today. So I mean, I feel, you know, special to be part of this group, but also special to be part of the art industry in general.
Well, and also one last thing for me, you know, I think it's really important too to, like, you know, especially if you're a person of color or, you know, a woman. It's really easy because we've all been told historically we're not going to get the opportunity because of our race. We can prevent ourselves from doing the things that we really want to do. So, you know, the first thing you have to do, you know, I just remember one time I was working somewhere and somebody, you know, a black person asked me, hey man, how'd you get this job? How'd you get this job, right? And I said to him, well, I walked in and applied. You know, because I was I don't know what reception it is. They may not hire me because I'm black or whatever, right? But I'm going to find that out, or at least have a better idea if that was the case after I've applied. Right. I'm not going to tell myself that before I've even gone in and tried to get the job, or tried to get, you know, into some program, or tried to get into some class, or tried to, you know, get some information or something from somewhere. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to work under the assumption that, you know what, I don't know what I'm going to get out of that. I'm hoping it's going to be the reception that I want to get out of it. And if it isn't, if it is, great. If it isn't, I'll get it from somewhere else. But I'm not going to stop myself from going in there and seeking it in the first place.
Can I add one more thing? Just to piggyback on what you just said. I know when I first started my career, I was in advertising. And so there were very few African Americans that were in the industry. So I think part of it, just strive to be the best that you can be. And if you are African American, people are going to recognize you with notoriety. Oh yeah, he's good too. So I mean, even now, as far as on a national basis, as far as political cartoonists, I belong to the American Association of Editorial Cartoonists. We probably have over 300 members, and out of those 300 members, there's probably, I would say, maybe 6 African American cartoonists that are part of that organization. So I think that it can also work to your advantage because you're one of the few that, I mean, they'll recognize you right away. It can work, you know, towards your I'll tell you a funny story. I went to my first American Associate Editor of Cartoonists, and I think it was 2003. There's another cartoonist named Tim Jackson who's in Chicago. So this is my first convention. So I'm walking to the convention, and someone said, "Hey Tim, hey Tim!" And so I make this joke. I'm the other black cartoonist. So I'm just saying to say that, you know, whatever you're going to do, just strive to be the best at it. And I think being a minority, it can work to your advantage. But you know, I think that you can't change the world or the culture that you're in. But what you can do is leverage that and utilize that to make you, to create your brand and distinguish you from everybody else.
And also, people of color are not the minority anymore; they're, you know, the majority. So, and you know, we're a much more diverse society. And it takes corporate America a while to kind of figure it out, but they figure it out and they recognize, oh, you know what? We'll put it this way: Tyler Perry's, you know, whatever you think of his stuff, he self-produced his first plays. Now he gets paid to produce the films that he makes and the television shows that he makes. So, you know, and why? Because he started making money independently, and corporate America said, wow, that guy's making a lot of money over there. You know, we need to get him to work for us and make that money for us. So, you know, the game is changing all the time. So just don't self-censor yourself. I'm sorry, Lalo.
Oh no, I was just going to say I'm a member of AAEC, the Editorial Cartoonist Group too, and there's so few minorities they call me Tim.
I have to speak for Sony because Sony.
Minority.
And he's good too.
Sony, I want to speak for Sony because Sony is a very diverse place to work. We've seen actually a lot more women lately in the past 5 to 10 years than any other individual group coming in, which is good. And a lot of that is just because, like you were talking about earlier, a lot of women just didn't know that those opportunities existed. If there were jobs in games for women, it had been a men's club for a long time. A geeky men's club for a long time. So yeah, there are opportunities, and even if you are currently a student, let's say you're going to community college or regular college, whatever, we have paid internships as long as you are a registered full-time student during the summertime. So if you want information on that, come and see me.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, they pay well. They pay well, and there are also jobs at Sony for. I work in the online games division. So in online gaming, these games run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they need people to sort of monitor the games. We have customer support. We have other sort of customer service jobs, and these people, there are shifts available 24 hours a day for those. Those are entry-level jobs that you can use to get your foot in the door at Sony. Many people start in customer service. They start in they're like game managers or dungeon masters or that sort of thing. And then, but they start developing their skills on the side, and they make a more easy transition into a production environment. So we're more likely to grab someone internally in our job first than we are outside, because we're looking for people who really want to be at the company.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's, you know, I think this is a good time to wrap up. Pretty much covered everything. But basically, again, first annual CounterCon. Stick with us over the years, you'll see us grow. And bottom line is like in Hollywood, in the entertainment business, it's who you know, what you know, and how you show it. These are the people that I know, and these are the people that you need to know. Everybody that was on here on the panel, even though everybody that was listed. So anyway, I'd like to wrap it up today. Thank you for coming out. I'd like to thank my friend, Tanya Diggs. especially thank Nickelodeon and Disney XD for providing us with these posters. I have some Legend of Korra posters that says, you see any posters here, any stickers. I can also thank StickerJunkie.com and Vince out of India, stand up Vince, for sticking with me. I'm putting on the providing the logo. Oh, we have comic books in the back. You know, take some, give it to your kids.
I got a couple of games if anyone needs a game.
Got some game demos.
Got some games. No, I got the full game.
Got the full game.
If you got a PC you think can run DC Universe, feel free to come grab a copy. I've got 2 copies of that for PC. And I got one PS3 version of the DC Universe Online. The subscription, it's now a free-to-play game. So all you got to do is load it up and it's free to play. You know?
So anyway, take any poster that you want. Take Brad's game.
Take my games away.
More than anything, tell your friends, spread the word. We're going to be back big time. I'll see you next year. Bye.